Okay, so now we're ready for a new chapter where we're going to be discussing collection data types and specifically some data structures like list, tuples, and sets and dictionaries. So what I have here is quoted from the W3 Python tutorial. The link is right here. So you could Google w3schools.com or W3 Python tutorial, and you will get something. Let me just bring it in here. That looks like this, and I am looking at Python lists, which will be our lesson for the day. You could see here, if I just click on Python Home, this will be an introduction here as to what are the different sections in Python to worry about, which we've incorporated a lot in our course. So what you have here is, for example, like getting started, how to install Python, and so on. So it's a great resource on how to use Python either from the prompt or by other methods from console. And then it goes on into a lot of topics that we will be covering throughout our course. So as you can see here, this is a great reference for that. So let me bring that out of focus now and focus on what we're going to be doing. The focus of today's lecture will be list. Now that, depending on time, we may break it down into various parts, but we will start with the basics of what a list is, okay? And then we're going to duplicate the same kind of effort when we explain how tuples work, how sets work, and how dictionaries work, and when to use them, right? And why would you want to use them? Now, let's start with why we'd want to use a list. Now, remember when we declared variables and stored data in them. So something like this, num1 equals 6, and then num2 equals 7. And then when we wanted to display them, then we had to go specifically and say something like this, print num1, num2. And then if we run this, it will actually print the content of each one of these variables, but we had to reference to each one of them, 6 and 7, right? Now, wouldn't it be easier if we could store this 6 and 7 in some sort of a list and then access it just like a book and pages? So we'll have some sort of a pagination, which we will call it the index of the collection, and do it that way. So how would we do it? Well, we could do something like this. My list, and then we can store 6 and 7 in it. But notice it's an assignment, right? Now, my list is a variable name, just like num1, num2. You can call it whatever you want. Whatever you do on this end is going to be important. So notice the syntax. I'm going to put brackets. Within the brackets, I'm going to put 6, comma 7. Okay. Now, this is a list. In my list, I actually have 6 and 7 stored in it, but in a sequential manner in terms of access. How? Well, if I simply did print my list, just like I did with any variable, what would we get? Now watch this. You will get 6 and 7 between brackets. Now, what if I wanted to print each one individually, the content, right? Then we could do something like this, print, and that would be my list. Now, if I go to page 0, that's the first one. And let's print that one in particular. And notice we get 6. Now, let's say we go to print. We're going to do the same thing. My list 1. That will be the next page, right? Or the next index. And notice that's 7. Now, what happens if you want to step out of bound? Which means, let me just copy this and print it here and put a 2 here. Now, let's see what kind of issues we run into. And there you have it. We get a list index out of range. So it's very important to understand you cannot access anything that's not or was not set up. We only have 2 pages. So and we start at page 0 or index 0. So only index 0 and 1 are valid and have values. Index 2, which is really the third page, does not have any data in it, nor is it a valid member of the list. So this is fundamental in terms of the list. Now, how can we add an item to the list? Okay, that's existing. Okay, can we write over it, for example? Can we rewrite 6, 7, and then put comma 9? You can, but you're just rewriting it. So can we append data to it? That's even better. That means we're not modifying the initial list, but we can expand it. So we're going to do my list. And this is the nice thing about lists, because, and let's go back to here, it's a collection data type. It comes with special methods that allows you to manipulate the list. And we're going to click dot. And notice the first things that appear is append. And I'm going to append and just put a piece of data here and put 9. Okay? So great. So now that we've appended 9, can we actually print my list again? Let's go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is actually print, since we've appended, that means we have an extra data member. So we should have access to my list 2. So let's go ahead and do 2, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And sure enough, so notice the list expanded. We did not have to rewrite 6 and 7 again. All we did is append 9 to it, which effectively expanded the list. So this list is dynamic. So this is a dynamic structure where we can actually get in there and expand it. Can we contract it? Absolutely. So, but for now, notice here, we now no longer get an error message if we try to access data member with indexed with 2, right? Because now we have 3 data members within that one. All right, so for the next lesson, I'm going to delve into this a little more, and we're going to use probably loops, and I'm going to introduce you to for loops, which will be really useful in terms of accessing the data members one at a time within a loop. We'll do it with a while loop, and then I'll do it again with a for loop. So this will be a reintroduction of loops in our next lesson. I will see you then.